I am really happy that even at this challenging time for all of us, we can still continue our academic researches and, much more importantly, share our research results with others. As you already know, today I will introduce you not only to few individual cases of anti-Soviet movement from 50s to 80s in Latvian SSSR through the video testimonies of audiovisual archive of the Museum of Occupation of Latvia, but also I want to talk about video testimonies of the Museum of Occupation of Latvia as a source. The museum was founded in 1993. Additionally to the classic museum collections consisting of documents and photographs and other things, museum also have audio-visual archive collection consisting of audio, video and film materials in different formats and lengths. Archive was founded in 1994 by recording audio testimonies. But since 1996, when the first camera was obtained, collection of the video testimonies was started. Since 1996, audiovisual archive have changed various formats of cameras, switching from Super VHS tapes to mini DV tapes, and in 2017 when museum got new camera, which allows us to shoot the video testimonies in digital files. From 2015 to 2016, digitization of an entire collection was done, and for now all collection is safely stored in hard drive disks, which allows us working with files immediately instead of finding needed Super VHS tape and using appropriate player. Digitization was done by company Memnon in Belgium, and we were supported by Stanford University libraries, where copies of our collection are also available for research, and it ensures safety. If anything would happen to our collection in Riga, there is full backup in Stanford, because we continue to send all video testimonies done after 2016 to United States. Until nowadays, collection consists of 2,408 video testimonies, or approximately 4,200 hours of running tapes. Other contents of the archive you can see on this slide. Video testimony as a historical source for us is narrative or life story of a person dramatically influenced by the Soviet and/or Nazi occupation policies. Pictures you see in the background of this slide are representing people sentenced for anti-Soviet activities and were included in this research. Thematically, video testimonies directly cover but are not limited to both mass deportations of 1941 and 1949 from Latvia, Holocaust survivors and eyewitnesses, Latvian soldiers in Red Army or Nazi Germany troops, Gulag survivors, Latvians in exile, and the topic we are looking at today, anti-Soviet movement. Video testimonies cover a wide range of topics. People talk about their experiences and give their opinions on different topics. For example, other people sentenced for anti-Soviet activities. Video testimonies cover people with different nationalities, mainly Latvians, Russians, Jews, but we also have Ukrainians, Germans, Estonians, Lithuanians, Swedes, and others. Video testimonies mostly are in Latvian, but we also have them in Russian, English, German, Swedish, and even one in Lithuanian. Video testimonies have been obtained not only in Latvia, but there have been expeditions to Krasnoyarsk Oblast in Russia, Germany, Canada, United States, and other countries. When it comes to the topic we are talking about today, as a base I chose research done by historian Gints Zelmenis, He have done research on national resistance movement in Latvia from 1959 to 1986. He have gone through the archival cases of 216 people arrested for anti-Soviet activities, anti-Soviet agitation and propaganda and other reasons, and made a short profile of every of those people with basic information. Out of those 216 people included in research, 185 were Latvians, 13 Russians, 7 Jews, 3 Poles, 2 Lithuanians, 1 Estonian, Hungarian and German. Geographically, 87 out of 216 people were living in the capital city of Riga, but the rest were living in countryside or in other cities. In most cases, the formulation of the accusation was anti-Soviet agitation and propaganda, which included not only any critical opinion on USSR, but also making, storing and raising a Latvian flag, telling anecdotes about leaders of the USSR and Communist Party. The heaviest political accusation was Article 59, betrayal of homeland. It could be used when person would meet a foreigner without consent of the state institutions. The sentence for this article could even be a death penalty, but no one was sentenced with it. Instead, they got 15 years in hard labor camps. The lightest accusation was defined under Article 183. There were a wide range of penalties for anti-Soviet criminals, starting from individuals whose cases were closed to up till 15 years in different kind of labor camps. In most political cases, accused were sentenced on average from 4 to 5 years. At least in 45 cases, accused were pardoned or original sentence was shortened. There have been cases when KGB hoped to recruit the person as an agent in favor for early release, or at least hoped to obtain loyalty to state institutions. On how it happened, Andres Būts talks in his video testimony. Out of 216 people mentioned in the research, we have 8 video testimonies. And there are more people in their video testimonies talking about other people who have been sentenced for anti-Soviet activities. Most of the viewed people in the paper mentions Knuts Skujnieks and Gunnars Rode, but we don't have their video testimonies. Video testimony as a source is different than Soviet-era documents. Video testimonies are made in different political regime and have long time distance since the events people are talking about. The best case scenario would be to compare information in those people criminal cases with information they are talking about in their video testimony. But because of state of emergency we experienced this spring, availability of the archive is and was limited. As far as audiovisual archive was founded in 1994, video testimonies from people sentenced for anti-Soviet activities have been obtained in different years. Even people whose cases were tied together, as Aina Zābaka, Uldis Sofkans and Ails Rīnieks cases, they were interviewed as individuals in different years, not as people who have been sentenced together for their anti-Soviet activities. During this presentation, I will introduce you to the 2 cases of anti-Soviet movement in Latvian SSR in the video testimonies of the audiovisual archive. Out of 8 available video testimonies, I chose 6 for my paper, but because of limited amount of time I chose 2 for my presentation. Before we go to experiences of Aina Zābaka and Uldis Sofkans, I want to mention that I wrote transcriptions of those video testimonies. and translated them into English, so wording is as people used it. It should be taken into account that terminology used by interviewees when it comes to term Gulag needs clarification. Officially, Gulag existed to the end of 1950s, but people continued to use the term Gulag to refer all forced labor camps that existed in Soviet Union. Information about Aina Zābaka in the research done by historian Zelmanis is seen on the slide. So we will continue with her video testimony done in 2017. She recalls studies in Moscow from 1954 to 1958. She became librarian. During her period of studies in Moscow, she was member of the Baltic Student Union, Balticums, where students from all three Baltic states gathered together and were used to talk freely about political questions concerning the fate of the Baltic states. After graduating and returning to Latvian SSR, Aina started to work as a librarian. Then she remembers being sent on a business trip to Daugavpils, which she felt was wrong. When she arrived there, she was taken not to the place she needed to go, but to the Daugavpils KGB. During interrogations in Daugavpils KGB, Aina was asked why she wanted to overthrow existing political regime, while this was the regime which had helped a lot by allowing her to study and work. Aina concludes that the reason behind accusation organizing anti-Soviet organization was the fact that two young women, as they were Aina Zābaka and Skaidrīta Sproģe, were living alone. And as she mentions that at that time they all were young people who wanted to have fun, so they used to come together at the flat Skaidrīta and Aina were living. This fact was used to define that Aina, in this made-up anti-Soviet group, was responsible for recruiting new members. Aina in details talk about her experience in the corner house in Riga, where she was while her case was investigated. After arrival there, those parts of the clothes, belts, shoelaces were taken away so no one could hang themselves. Her mother knew that she was arrested, so she could take her some food. Talking about food, Aina recalls that food was spicy and salted. It was done to suppress the drugs added to food so detainees would talk more freely during interrogations. She recalls that during investigation of her case, she had birthday, at which during her interrogation she was given a piece of cake. And then she was asked to be honest with them. Aina answered that she had been honest with them all the time and ate the piece of cake. Only during trial, Aina get to know other people she was sentenced together with. Aina recalls that from the group she was sentenced together with, she only knew few people: Knuts Skujnieks, Viktors Kalniņš, and Dailes Rīnieks and his wife, because they were working together in a library. Aina admits that she did not knew Gunārs Rode, but she explains how he was made part of this illegal made-up anti-Soviet group. Gunārs Rode knew Dailes Rīnieks and Gunārs Rode knew Uldus Ofkants, so investigators drew them together and made up that they all were members of an illegal anti-Soviet group. Her trial lasted from 28th of November to 28th of December 1962, when she was sentenced with 12 years. She recalls that prosecutor Page, in the end of trial, admitted that Zābaka haven't done anything wrong, but she is capable for that, and that's the reason why she was sentenced with those 12 years in labor camp. Now we will look at the case of Uldis Ofkants, and on this slide you can see the profile historian Gints Zelmenis have made about him. In the video testimony from 2006, Uldis in details talks about his life, including his anti-Soviet activities and experience in hard labor camp. He talks about group of people he was sentenced together with, but in reality this group was made up by KGB. He did not know all people, but this was the way KGB proved that this group, Aina Zābaka was also talking about, had high level of conspiracy. Uldis was arrested on 18th of May 1962 when he, at his working place, was invited to the director of the Rīgas Kino Studio, where he was working at that time. Two men came for him and took him to the corner house in Riga. And as he admits, at that moment he lost his freedom for 10 years. Uldis remembers seeing Knuts Kujenieks and Viktors Kalniņš for the first time during trial, similarly as Aina Zābaka told us. Uldis talks about trial. He had a lawyer, but he concludes that there were no difference between good or bad lawyers, because in the cases of KGB, a result was decided before. When he was given the last word, he did not admit betrayal of homeland. He admitted talking, but there were no practical actions. Uldis remembers that after the trial ended, he was placed together in one cell with Viktors Kalniņš, and they became good friends. Uldis recalls arrival in Gulag in Mordovia. He tells that every few years youngsters were taken away from those who have been there longer because more experienced inmates would bother youngsters. After a few years they were allowed to come back together and were separated again because now youngsters would bother older inmates to become better people. Uldis was released on 18th of May 1972. His friend Viktors Kalniņš was released 1 month earlier because he was arrested 1 month earlier. After release, Uldis received a certificate that he have obtained skills as a sawmill worker, but he admits never learning anything like that. In general, he have been working as a construction worker and doing different works in factories. Now we switch to short conclusions. Video testimonies as a source is valuable because memories people talk about stay preserved even after they die. Out of 8 people we have video testimonies, with 3 have already died. But information they give through video testimony will be available and usable long time afterwards. This is also important because not everyone is writing or willing to write their memories about their lives and leave their version of what happened. Video testimonies also shows different methods used by interrogators of KGB. Aina Zābaka, Raimonds Ēriks Miķelsons and Māris Andrušievskis mentions drugs used in food or water to make people talk more freely during interrogations. Other methods include long interrogations few days in a row, asking the same questions, and interrogations at night. This also allows to conclude the methods used by KGB over a period of time in 60s, 70s and later. Video testimonies of the audiovisual archive allow people to get to know not so well-known cases of anti-Soviet activities. For example, Gunārs Astra, Knuts Kujenieks and Gunārs Rode are wide known for broader public because they have written their memories, they have given interviews, but at the same time there are more people who are never mentioned or associated with this anti-Soviet movement. There needs to be done deeper research by comparing archival cases to the information people tell in their video testimonies or write in their memories. This paper was meant to introduce the audiovisual archive of the Museum of the Occupation of Latvia as a source to a broader public through the video testimonies of individual cases of the anti-Soviet movement of Latvia. There you can see the list of sources I used to prepare this presentation, and there you can see where to look for additional information in the contents of the audiovisual archive and where it has been used. Thank you very much for your attention.